Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first lecture for this semester. Today, we're going to talk about the origins and evolution of policing, some of the major milestones in the development of our modern day policing. We're also going to discuss what is due process of the law, the various policing eras. We're actually in our third policing era, so we'll be discussing those three different types of era. We'll also be talking about how state and federal law enforcement agencies were developed and what they do and what their role is now. So let's begin with the first, what is believed to be the first policing, which was the tie system. And the tie system basically consisted of about 10 people coming together and watching everybody's property. Well, the problem with this was there wasn't very much organization um, between the ties, so they kind of became drunk and disorderly themselves while watching others, and that kind of got um, put on the back burner, so to say. And then the this was considered the first private affair um, in public policing. Then we had the shiree. Shiree is our term for sheriff evolved from. Sheri is basically the keeper of the shire. Back in the old days, they would have little communities called shires, and that's how shiree became to be involved. Then we have the night watchman. And again, much like the ties, there was not very much organization to these folks. They became drunk and disorderly. They also took bribes. So they were not very effective in modern day policing, but they did help in creating certain rules and aspects. During the night watchman, they created a hue and cry system. Basically, if something was going on, they would cry out, letting others know that something was going on. Then we move into Henry Fielding. Henry Fielding created the Bow Street Runners in 1707. This was what is believed to be the first police unit, not necessarily the first organized police, but the first police unit, and they were known as the thief takers. Basically, they were called this because thievery or stealing was very popular back in that day. And they would arrest folks mostly for people who stole things, so they would be called the thief keepers, or excuse me, the thief takers. Then we have Sir Robert Peel. Sir Robert Peel probably gave more to law enforcement than any other person at this time. Sir Robert Peel created the the London Metropolitan Police Act. He was also known basically as the father of modern day policing. Um, he created his police force along paramilitary organization, and they were basically put in uniforms, given a badge. Things were kind of um, along the same lines as the military. They were given a number, they were not known by name. So they basically were formed basically along military lines. They were also known as bobbies, and there's been a little bit of debate as to how that name come to fruition. Some people say that Robert Peel gave them that name. Other folks say that the name Bobbies came from the public because of Robert Peel. Robert is also short for Bobby. So that's where some myths come into play as to the term Bobbies. Then we have the oldest military law enforcement group in the United States, which is the Texas Rangers. They were created in 1923. Um, in the 18th century, there were also slave patrols that were created to try to track down runaway slaves. And due to that, Congress decided that there needed to be a better system, so they created due process. And due process is granted under the United States Constitution by the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment. Now today, everyone has due process given to them under these amendments. Then we're going to move into the various law enforcement eras. The first one was the political era. The next was reform. And then we move into what we are actually in still today, the community era. Then we're going to move into the emergence of the federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. How did they become about, and what role do they play? Well, of course, federal helps out federally. State helps out the local, the state, and then local authorities are like our local police departments, our local sheriff's departments. All right, since this is our first meeting, I want to give you a couple of things to remember. Each week you are expected to complete a discussion board or a written assignment. For some weeks you will be expected to respond to at least 2 of your classmates with a meaningful post, and those will be posted in the announcements, of which it will be either a discussion board or a written assignment. Now on the discussion boards, when you respond to at least 2 students, I want something more than I agree or yes you're right. I want to know why you agree or why you disagree with that particular statement. And remember, we are in a law enforcement class. Opinions are going to vary, so let's respect each other's opinions. There's a lot of things in law enforcement that I don't like, but I have to respect it. So just because we disagree with someone, they just have a different outlook than what we do. Okay, so let's be respectful to each other, and we're not going to get into a little match of wits going back and forth. We're going to state why we agree or why we disagree. Each of your initial posts should be at least 200 characters. Anything less than 200 characters, you will be counted off as far as points are concerned. In all of these discussions, there will be a rubric attached to each discussion post to give you an idea of how you will be graded on that particular discussion board or writing assignment. Remember, if you need to contact me, you can most of the time get me at my cell phone, 662-397-5959. Text, phone. If I don't answer, leave a message. I usually do not return numbers that I don't recognize because I do get so many fake phone calls from different numbers. So make sure you leave me a message if I don't answer. You can also reach me by email. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I will respond to you hopefully within 12 hours or less. I will respond to you within 24 hours or less, but I hope to respond to you within 12 hours at least. And every Monday night, 5 to 6 p.m., I will be available for phone calls, email, text messages, however you want to communicate with me on anything that you feel that you need to discuss further with me. So if you have any questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to give me a call.